you have a wrong idea of what mental health is, or rather what moving towards mental health is. But it's not your fault. You've been sold on an unrealistic idea of mental health. But not just you, pretty much everyone else in today's society, is the unrealistic idea that mental health means complete absence of inner tension, inner struggle, and inner conflict. But let's look at a more realistic, more nuanced, and also a more human vision of mental health. Or rather, in this case, it will be called psychological health, because that's actually what we are going for. But I will not now play with the semantics of mental versus psychological health. Let's just read the important quote or important passage. The movement toward psychological health is a move not from the presence of problems to the absence of problems, but rather a shift from pseudo problems, false problems, neurotic problems, and unnecessary problems to real problems of life. So a shift from unnecessary, false, neurotic, pseudo problems, a shift towards real problems of life. So this person right here, I will reveal his name in a second, proposes that a move toward real psychological health, or what we call today mental health, a move toward mental or psychological health means move toward a certain type of problems, real problems of life. This was Abraham Maslow, one of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century, someone to whom we owe a lot when it comes to understanding human nature, someone who, even though is very well known, because we learn about Maslow's hierarchy of needs in school, even though is well known, is criminally underrated in his contribution to psychology, but also in his attempt to revolutionize psychology. And I would say that attempt, it's fair to say, it failed. So once again, even though well known, criminally underrated in the depth and impact and ambition of his thought. Ambition not for the sake of him becoming the next messiah figure like some thinkers wanted for them, but ambition in the sense of trying to propel humanity towards greater heights. Well, Abraham Maslow, while describing existentialist view of psychological health, said these things. Something valuable to note, Abraham Maslow is considered a humanistic psychologist. However, all thinkers that look at the human being in a holistic way, in a way that is nuanced, in a way that doesn't degrade human and reduce the human being to a mechanism to be figured out and reprogrammed, like a lot of behavioral school of psychology do. Any thinker and every thinker that wants to look at the human being with more complexity and more nuanced does in some way belong to the broader school of existential thought. Well, here is Maslow, who was closely connected with the existential or existentialist psychology movement, with thinkers like Rollo May, for example. Here he is, even though the pioneer of humanistic psychology, describing the existentialist view of psychological health, which he clearly agreed with and wanted to promote. And that is, once again, that mental health is not a move from presence of problems to the absence of problems, which is basically the idea that we have been sold, that we are being sold today, but it's rather a shift from these neurotic, false, unnecessary, and pseudo problems to real problems of life. What are these neurotic, false, unnecessary, pseudo problems? Those are problems that we experience and perceive as real. We're not trying to invalidate your feelings, invalidate your experience. But these problems come from, of course, the ways in which you have been wronged in life, but also the mistakes that you have made, the cowardice with which all of us live to some extent, the inauthenticity that all of us live with or live by to some extent, the trauma, sure, that we have picked up. But all of those problems are problems to be worked through, to be overcome in order to engage in the real challenge of life. Maslow gives, the ultimate example, addressing the problem of evil. He considers that as one of the real problems of life that every human is supposed to tackle to some extent, on some level, in some way. And I think today, this is being recorded in January 2026, we have a lot of evil going on in the world. There are certain people here who live in countries, that are maybe considered powerful and are run by powerful people that are absolutely evil and corrupt. I think a lot of people will find themselves in this statement. So there's a lot of things to address, to tackle as a human being. Injustice, evil, disease. Why not? Maybe someone is supposed to tackle the problem, the real problem of disease and illness through their research or through their humanitarian work. But the pseudo problems, the neurotic problems, the ones that all of us deal with, it's not to say that they're not real in the sense that you are not really experiencing them, but they're not real in the sense of they are not the real challenges of human life. Those challenges are out there when you jump into life, when you engage in life. These problems, neurotic, unnecessary, false, pseudo problems, you are experiencing them as very real, but they are preventing you from engaging in life, and by doing so preventing you from tackling real challenges. So once again, this is not to invalidate your experience, this is to provide you with a different perspective, to say, if you are now dealing with what we call today mental health problems, what's on the other side shouldn't be, in terms of you hoping, what's on the other side shouldn't be this illusion of bliss. Because then we reach for methods of quote-unquote curing ourselves that actually reduce us as human beings. What's on the other side of these problems that we call mental health problems is a capacity to engage in life and engage in real challenges. Whether those challenges are personal challenges, family challenges, societal challenges, challenges to be tackled on a local level, on a national level, whether you want to impact the world or help your family or change your life, advance your career, advance your creative pursuit, inspire your local community. Those are the real challenges to be taken on. And once again, that doesn't invalidate struggles with mental health problems. This doesn't attempt to say that those are not real in the intensity and way that you are experiencing them, but is to say that those are not the real problems that the battle of life is about. The real problems are out there, and you have the capacity to meet them. But we cannot fall for the idea that all of this work on ourselves and all of this bettering of ourselves is working towards eliminating all inner conflict and inner tension, eliminating all challenge from life. Quite the opposite. All this bettering of ourselves, all of this becoming better with ourselves, better to ourselves, is working towards having a capacity to lean into the tension, to lean into the conflict, to lean into the challenge, because all of us have a far greater capacity than we imagine to impact the world, and not just better ourselves, but make this life a better experience for people around us. Thank you.